From July 8th to July 28th, 2014, 1,148 Palestinians and 56 Israelis lost their lives from one of the many conflicts that occur between the two. The same pain is felt when a Palestinian mother loses her child and an Israeli mother loses her child. For years since its start in 1948, many presidents and world leaders have tried to solve this world issue but have been unsuccessful. I was fortunate enough to visit both states. These are the realities I witnessed. When I first arrived into Tel Aviv, I was greeted by military personnel because I had landed in an Israeli military base. I entered the terminal and was immediately introduced to Israel's hospitality. I was served orange juice and welcomed. After I received my visa, I asked the young lady for directions to my hotel. I then left the base and felt like I had entered the scene of a Hollywood set. I saw palm trees, people running on the beaches, volleyball games being played, and overall people, what seemed to me, were enjoying a great quality of life. I was shocked, since I hear of the fighting that constantly takes on in that region. I called upon a taxi and was greeted with the shalom, which is the Hebrew definition for peace. The Palestinians, or the Islamic greeting, is salam, which also means peace. I was surprised at how well the taxi driver spoke English. He asked me about my journey from Chicago to Israel. And what amazed me was how he knew the streets of Chicago better than me. I was aware Chicago had a large Jewish community, but then I then learned that the same taxi cab driver had many family members that still reside in Chicago. I then arrived to my hotel and immediately saw a group of teenagers playing in a beautiful community park. These were everywhere in Israel. This one had many basketball courts. It had a turf soccer field, along with a skate park, free gym equipment, and it also had a Starbucks located in the center. I called upon the teenagers and asked if I can join them in their basketball game. After the pickup game, the teenagers were asking me what America was like, and we talked about the NBA. I asked if they have ever been to America and how they spoke such great English. They replied in school that they were taught English. You see, Israel ranks 12th out of 98 nations in education, according to CO World. Palestine doesn't even rank. They do, however, rank their universities. And Najah University, which is a university located in the West Bank, ranks 1,537th worldwide in universities. The University of Gaza, located in the Gaza Strip, ranks 2,330th worldwide. The next morning, I made my way into the West Bank. I entered Kalandia refugee camp, the largest refugee camp in the West Bank. I felt like I had traveled halfway across the world. As soon as I entered, I noticed many rundown old buildings and people living out of tents. Every street I turned, I saw Palestinian posters with a young male's picture on it, and written across was the Arabic word shaheed, which translates to a martyr in English. Even though Palestine has a poverty rate of 29 to 35%, it feels like not a lot separates those living above the poverty line. I entered a taxi when I entered Palestine, and the gentleman didn't know English at all. He knew a couple simple words, such as hello or how are you. I realized that this was the majority of Palestine. Israel ranks very high on the Human Development Index. It ranks 22 out of 189 nations, while Palestine ranks 119th. I was fortunate enough in Kalandia to find a court to play basketball with Palestinian teenagers, except this one was on an old parking lot which had massive potholes and the concrete was all broken up. The basketball hoop itself was made out of limited resources and again was extremely run down. There were about 30 kids lined up waiting to play. Nonetheless, they were all happy to be there and didn't mind waiting. This was the norm in Palestine. I remember crossing back into Israel and looking at this massive wall that separates the two, and looking at all the Palestinians who were homeless living near that gate. Maybe I thought to myself they were trying to gain sympathy from the guards, because 2.5 million Palestinians are in need of humanitarian aid. 25% of Palestinians cannot afford simple health care. The Israeli Cancer Treatment Center, which offers some of the world's most advanced treatment, in the world is 45 minutes away from the refugee camp. This really amazed me. Israel and Palestine was like day and night to me. I do hope one day the fighting can stop and both groups can unite into one peaceful country. These are just some of the witnesses, and this is some of the details I witnessed on my embark to Israel and Palestine.